Welcome, everyone, to Positively Trek. I'm Bruce Gibson, and with me, as, you know, he always is Dan Gunther. Dan, how are you?
Hey, Bruce. Happy to be here to talk Star Trek and all this really cool stuff. We got a lot to talk about this week, including a new episode of Star Trek Picard, but also a bunch of really cool sneak peeks and stuff. I'm so excited to talk about it.
I know, I wasn't really expecting this, and then all of a sudden, just days before we go to record, all this stuff drops from Strange New Worlds, and I was like, oh, I guess we need to talk about this one character video that came out. Oh no, there's two now. Okay, well, these two character well, 3 and 4 and 5, and it just kept growing and growing, and I think there's a total of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 character little trailers for Strange New Worlds. So we'll talk about that. And of course, we'll talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon. But before we get to those, we have a convention coming up in just a few days, and it's Star Trek Mission Chicago. And I know not everybody can go, but we at least want to mention it because this is the first officially licensed convention with Reed Pop. So it's always been Star Trek Las Vegas for the longest time, but now we've got this one in Chicago. So this one's going to be interesting because I'm going to compare it a lot to Star Wars Celebration since Reed Pop throws that show, and already I'm starting to see some differences. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, and maybe some more information will come out, but when I've gone to Star Wars Celebration, there's usually like the big opening event, you know, that everybody goes to. And that's when, you know, there's going to be some announcement or some surprise or something like that. And I'm not seeing that on the schedule, at least not right now. And then there's usually a big closing event too. So they're not doing that with this. So I don't know. It's like the day starts on Friday and there's just things going on. There's not a big opening event. So that's different for me. For this. So I really probably shouldn't compare the two. You know?
I think there's going to be a lot of comparisons going on, though, like you said, between this and other Reed Pop events, but also probably between this and Star Trek Las Vegas, Creation's Star Trek conventions as well. And, you know, in a lot of ways, I don't envy Reed Pop because it's big shoes to fill. Creation, for all of the issues that some people had, they put on a big Star Trek show every year. And I'm curious to see what the reaction to this convention will be. We already know that there was a longer wait time before they announced all the guests, and they still don't have as many guests as Creation typically has. But they definitely seem to announce their guests closer to the actual event, whereas Creation announces them months out and kind of a slow trickle of more guests as it gets closer. But that said, the lineup they have at this convention for guests and panels and stuff looks really interesting to me. And I'd really love to be able to go. And I've said that probably dozens of times on this show over the last few episodes. But yeah, I would love to go to this.
Yeah, I would too. Oh, wait, I am going. Yay.
Kidding. Very happy for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about going. I mean, it's just that I've been cooped up at home through COVID for so long. I've only traveled 2 other times, and it was all revolving around my daughter looking at schools. And so this is like my first outing that's just for fun and just to see people and just socialize. And I was just at a wedding last night, and I remember thinking, gosh, I haven't really been to an event where there's a bunch of people around me like this in a couple of years, you know. Mm-hmm. But it felt like it didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't done this for so long. It just felt like old hat again, you know, just like, yeah, I've done these so many times. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Star Trek fans and friends and celebrities and creators and whatever they're associated with Star Trek, and just have a good time. And then I've got my panel, which is Trek Beyond the Screen! Explanation point. Let me just tell you about the title for this real quick. So when I chose this as the title, they said to pick something that sounds exciting. All right. So I was like, I thought about it. I came Trek Beyond the Screen. And then I thought exclamation point because they want it to be exciting. I did that more for them. I didn't know if that would actually end up being the official title. So that's why there's the exclamation point at the end of that.
Nice.
Operation Annihilate or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's in room 471B. That's 471B as in Bravo or beyond. And that's Friday, April 8th at 1:45 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. And we have John Jackson Miller and Dayton Ward on, Chrissy DeClercq-Salagi, and Jesse Earl, also known as Jesse Gender, and of course myself on the panel. And there's a lot to talk about, which makes me a little nervous because we only have 45 minutes. And I've done other panels where they're usually an hour. And most of the time it's like, oh, we got to wrap this up. We're reaching the hour and there's more to do. And I'm like, how am I going to do this in less time, in 45 minutes? So, but I don't want to say too much, but I think I might have some giveaways. I'm waiting for those to arrive. So that's why I don't want to say definitely, because if they don't, then they don't. But, there's going to be some things and maybe some surprises. Again, I don't want to say too much because I'm not sure if all this stuff will happen. But the big thing is we're just going to talk about books. That's the big thing.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm a broken record. I really, really wish I could be there. I'm really excited for you to host this panel, and I think it's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to see what surprises may or may not come with this. So very cool.
Well, I know some people have asked, is this going to be streamed? The answer is no. I did check with Repop. They're not streaming this anywhere. They will allow me to record it, so I will maybe attempt that. Again, I don't know how that would turn out because I've been on other panels where people record it and then they get to the recorder and they go, it didn't work, so I can't promise anything. And then I don't know what the rules are if I can take that recording and release it here on the show or somewhere else or whatever. I haven't talked to the organizers about that. So, and I also want to talk to the panelists to make sure they're okay with it too. So we'll just see. Everything's kind of still in the works, but for the most part, we're all set and ready to go talking about Star Trek books and comics. So I am excited.
Excellent. Yeah. And maybe holding out hope might maybe a special episode of Positively Trek with that panel. But if not, that's up to Reed Pop, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then earlier in the day at 1:45 a.m., IDW has a Star Trek comic book spotlight virtual screening. So that will be cool. I'm going to try to get to that. So, and then that's before my panel. So we might refer to some of the things they bring up on that panel, because I don't know, maybe they're making some announcements there.
Very, very possible.
So, yeah. But anyway, that's it. Who cares about all that? Because if you're not going, you're like, I don't care. I'm jealous, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Been there, done that. Okay, so let's get to these little trailers. Actually, there's 9. I said there was 8. See, I was wrong. And I know why, because in my notes, I missed Spock for whatever reason. Because I wrote them down. I was missing Spock. But in our online notes that we have on screen, it does show that there's 9. So we're not going to go through each one of them one by one and do analysis because we could be here for another hour. But, there's just some things that stood out to me. First of all, just the look. I mean, the set designs, the ships, the shuttlecrafts, whatever, the planets, everything, the uniforms. The design is so modern yet retro at the same time. I love how they're approaching this.
Yeah, I've seen some side-by-side comparisons too between how the bridge of the Enterprise looked in season 2 of Discovery and the redesign they've done for Strange New Worlds. And I really love the direction they're going, and it's on full display, all of that in these little trailers. One thing that I found was funny, and you and I have talked about this, about how long it took to get a trailer. We wanted a proper trailer. Why isn't there a proper trailer? And now Strange New Worlds has more trailers than any other Star Trek show has ever had before it. So, these 9 little character trailers were a nice little surprise. Exciting to learn a little bit more about, the characters that are ones from past shows as well. But as well as that, the new characters. So, we get the definitive reveal that Hemmer is in fact an Enar, the subspecies of the Andorians that we got in Enterprise. More about La'an, Nuni, and Singh, and Ortegas. By the way, Ortegas, kind of a sleeper character for me from early on, who, based on these trailers, might be one of my favorite characters now. I'm really excited to see all of these characters in action.
Yeah, Ortegas bragged at the Academy to be the best pilot. And I was like, okay, well, let's see how you are, because Sulu's going to claim that later.
But yeah, I just loved the way, like, that character, their kind of fun little repartee there. First date or third date? Blind date. Taking it in undercover or whatever it was. Like, I don't know. I love that kind of, oh, what is it? It's that light mood that I felt that Pike brought to Discovery. Seeing that in this show just like every week is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I picked up on that too, the lighter mood. I'm not thinking that every episode is going to be just some light, fun episode, of course. It's just they're picking those for the trailer because I think they want to convey to everybody that this is going to be a fun show, and just bring in, like you said, those character moments of people relating to one another and you liking the characters up front because how they talk to each other. And I remember seeing characters like Leon and Una talking in the corridor and, just that exchange there and just how like, oh, they think each other is so cool. It's just like stuff like that.
Yeah. Talking about these two with Brandy the other day, Brandy Jackala, friend of the show, Spock is in every single one of these. Like, his presence is really being kind of emphasized in these trailers. And I think the first character trailer that came out was the Uhura one. And one thing I noticed in that is Spock's line towards the end of that trailer. He is really channeling Leonard Nimoy's Spock in that. Like, if you watched that and closed your eyes, you would for half a second think it was Leonard Nimoy speaking. I was really impressed by just how he's channeling that Leonard Nimoy Spock energy there.
That is so cool. I want to go back and watch that. But I did pick up on some of that as I was going through the trailers. It's funny you guys picked up on Spock like that because I picked up on La'an that way. La'an was like in so many of the trailers, I was just like, boy, she's seeming like a central character to me.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Yeah.
And then my wife said to me, what's up with Pike's hair?
He's kind of almost got like this pompadour thing going on. He's, yeah. They were joking. I saw on Twitter, somebody had asked like, nobody's asking the important question. How do we get hair like Pike's here? And Anson Mount replied, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like motor oil and something else or something. Like it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was funny.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I remember seeing something like that too. Yeah. And then just like randomly later in the day, my wife just turned to me and she goes, why would they do that to Pike's hair? I don't understand. I was like, I don't know either. It is kind of weird. Gosh, yeah, there's just so much that we could say. Like I said, we could spend an hour going through this. But I'm just looking through my notes real quick to see if things stood out, because I just wrote a few things. I did like seeing Spock and Chapel in the Chapel featurette, because Chapel feels a little more spunky than in the original series, and I love how they're having dinner together, and she just kind of bops his head.
Yeah, I'm curious to learn more about Chapel in this, and definitely a different take on the character based on what we saw in the original series. One of the things that I've seen mentioned online, of course, is Chapel's characterization in the original series was basically saying, "Yes, Doctor," to McCoy and having a crush on Spock. So right. There's a lot of room to play with the character and introduce some more stuff. There had some more stuff like her fiance, Roger Corby, and all of that. But for the most part, it was pretty not very three-dimensional. So I'm excited to have that character fleshed out more for sure.
And then Mbenga is the chief medical officer, which I thought, like, we knew his character was going to be in this, but I wasn't sure if he was chief medical officer or not, but it was confirmed on this, which means why did he step down or leave the Enterprise for McCoy? I'm assuming that he left the Enterprise and just would occasionally come back because we didn't see him throughout the original series.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm wondering if his internship on Vulcan happens after his time, because he mentions that's a big plot point in the original series that he's back from a stint on Vulcan. So I'm wondering if that's why he leaves. Maybe.
No, that makes sense. I bet that's it. He leaves to go do that, to do his own Kolinar. No, I'm kidding. But no, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, pretty exciting. So go watch these if you haven't. We have links here in the notes to check that out. And then we had the trailer. So usually we record on Saturdays, but because of schedules, we're recording now on Monday. So the time this episode drops, it's only been a day, which I'm glad we kind of waited because we did get a trailer.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt. This is your captain? Our mission. To chart the stars. Push the boundaries of what is known. And what is possible.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
I love this job.
These people, this crew, I believe we can do anything.
You wanted to seek out new life. Go where the aliens are.
Your presence is blasphemy.
Let's talk about this. Find some comfort.
I think that went well.
Perhaps we should kiss.
That seems logical.
Maybe we don't touch anything else. Just a suggestion.
The whole future hangs in the balance.
No one can know the future. One can only follow one's instincts.
You're the best of Starfleet. Our ability to work together, that's our greatest strength. Let's show them what you got.
For me, just the look of everything, and like you said, the character interactions and the things they've said, it made me think about first two things. Why didn't they go with this kind of look and style that connects so close to the original series? Why didn't they do that for Discovery? And why didn't they do that for the Kelvin timeline movies? Because that's kind of the things I was expecting. And not that I don't like the designs of what they did in those two things, but this is a little closer to home.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the look of this, and it's beautiful. The visuals and stuff are stunning, but like you said, that bit of a futuristic retro look to it that, and it's not a clone. It's obviously not a copy of what they did in the 60s, but it's like a futuristic retro look created in the 2020s, so it's like what they did in the 60s, but from now a little bit, if that makes sense. And I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying this. This trailer, first of all, is really cool in the glimpses that it gives us of the show and the tidbits of the stories that we're going to get. I'm really excited.
And then there's something that looks like Amok Time,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm wondering why he's on Vulcan doing the fight like he's doing on Amok Time, and then just seeing things like the alien on the view screen. I was curious, is that a Klingon? I'm not real clear. I'm not sure. Because the Klingons have had so many different looks kind of lately that I was like, is that a new version that's kind of in the in-between of the Klingons we saw in Discovery in the original series? And then I look at him like, no, I don't think that's a Klingon. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's funny. My mind didn't go to Klingon, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything like you say in the modern era of Trek. So could be, but yeah. Interesting. I did see what I think, of course, and we saw in the character ones as well, what looks to be a Tholian ship. We saw a Tholian web in the character things. So, they're going to figure in. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and then there was something else that stood out to me that looked like a 2-story sickbay. I don't know if you noticed that, but it was like there's all these sickbay beds, which looked pretty big, and then there's like an upper level where people are walking around. And then I thought, well, maybe that's not on the Enterprise. That could be on a space station or something, because I can't imagine they would make the sickbay that big, but I don't know. Maybe they did. But again, a sickbay with a upper area doesn't seem very sanitary and private to me.
It could be one of the medical wards that we never saw on the original series, right? Because they only show us the main sickbay office and exam room area and stuff. So there's probably wards elsewhere on the ship that we just never saw.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. We get to explore parts of the ship we never saw before, right? Oh, that's going to be so cool.
Absolutely.
And there'll be more windows to look out too.
Yeah, the original series. I was always like, where are all the windows? Come on, people. So, yeah.
I know. I used to think, why would Kirk take a room that doesn't have a window? He's the captain. He should pick the best room. Oh, and the other thing that stood out to me is Ortegas was fighting with a sword. I was like, do Enterprise pilots always do sword fighting?
It's just it's an elective at the Academy, and it's an easy way to get credits towards helmsman. I don't know why. It's just maybe a misprint in the college calendar or something, but yeah.
Anyway, it should be good. So that's what, May 5th it's coming out. So
yeah, Revenge of the Fifth.
There you go. And then I keep wondering, are they going to premiere something or show us more at Star Trek Mission Chicago? I don't know. I mean, we've still got another month. There's got to be some more stuff coming. Yeah,
well, there's a big Strange New Worlds panel at Star Trek Chicago as well, with a bunch of the stars of the show too. So that'll be very cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad that's not at the same time my panel is.
No offense, Bruce, but no one would be at your panel.
I know. That's what I was thinking, too. I probably wouldn't be at my panel either. Oh, one thing real quick I'm looking forward to is Star Trek The Motion Picture, the Director's Edition, that premieres... Wait, what's today that we're recording? What's the date? The 3rd?
It's the 4th today that we're recording. And this episode should be out on the 5th, which is the day that drops.
Yes! Hey, everybody, have you watched it yet? I'm so excited about that. Oh, my gosh. It just occurred to me that this comes out today as you guys are hearing this episode, or at least when this episode drops. But for us right now when we're recording, that's tomorrow. I'm so excited. And then they're doing a screening at it at Star Trek Mission, which I'm hoping to maybe get to that too. So maybe we'll see.
That's exciting. It feels like I won't be able to get to see it until September. So I'm very jealous.
Oh, that's right. Dang. Okay. You have to just come to the States just briefly to watch it and then go back.
There we go. Yeah, that'll work.
Just get in the car and just start driving.
Well,
anyway, you'll get to see it eventually. It's the same movie you've always seen. It's not, it just looks a little better. That's all. So, well, you know what? Let's talk about Star Trek Picard. But before we do that, we're going to take a brief break. Because, sometimes when you're sitting here drinking caffeine, you need to take a break to go do something. But that's not why we're taking a break. But anyway, we're taking a break. We'll be right back.
This episode of Positively Trek is brought to you by our wonderful supporters on Patreon, including our Constitution class supporters Jim Stoffel, Joyce Marin, Carl Morris, Dave Garcia, Rick Young, Paul D. Kinnear, John Blaber, and Jesse Earl. Thank you all so much for your support of the Positively Trek podcast. If you would like to become a patron of the show, go to patreon.com/positivelytrek. You can get early access to episodes, exclusive content, shoutouts, associate producer credits, and more. Again, that's patreon.com/positivelytrek. Thank you once again. And now let's get back to the show.
Nothing is incurable.
Well, you have neither the time nor the funding to prove that theory, but you do have this. Analyze it. If you like what you see, give me a call. Then maybe you can help me with something that I might want.
All right, Dan. I have to do it at least once. Ready? Fly me to the moon. That's all I'm going to do. No, I didn't watch the live show. Did Brandy sing it?
She didn't. We mentioned that, of course, it was the song title, but no, she didn't sing it.
I'm surprised. I thought she'd sing it. We'll have to have her on here to sing it for us sometime.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, episode 5 of season 2. So let's just, I want to get right into knowing just like your initial thoughts of this episode.
I really enjoyed it. I'm liking the progression of the story. One thing that came up a lot in the live show with Brandy and something I've noticed about this season though is the stopping points of the episodes, like more so even than any of the other new era of Star Trek shows. This season is very much chapters in a book where like a year or 2 or 3 from now, if you ask me, which episode was it where this happened? I'm going to have a hard time answering that because so many of the things straddle the breaks of the episodes and we don't get really, like even in Discovery where it's one story over the course of the season, there's still kind of self-contained episodes. Like, there's the episode where they rescued the people from that planet. There's the episode where they crossed the galactic barrier. There's the, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas this one, it's like, where's the episode where Rios is in custody of ICE? Well, that's last episode and this episode. Where's the one where they're at the big gala party? Well, that's this episode and the next episode. So it's interesting that they're breaking it up that way. But that said, I'm along for the ride. I'm really enjoying this. And it really does feel like this is chapter 5 of a 10-chapter book.
It's so fun to talk to you about these things because it's like you're reading my mind. I mean, I know you've said something like that before, but it really stood out to me this time because after I watched the episode, I remember walking around the house and at one point thinking, what did I think of this episode? And I thought, it's like Dan says, it's chapters in a book. It's just the next chapter, right? It's like there's no real beginning and end to it for me to say like, this episode was really this, or it was just like the continuation. To me, like you're saying, this season really feels like something that once it's all done, watch it all together, binge watch the season. And I think it will play really well and feel like one just giant episode or movie or whatever. Like you said, a book, because I didn't leave this feeling, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I've been enjoying the episodes, but now I'm used to it, the style and the way they're telling the story and what the story's about, that this episode just didn't make me feel like, oh no, I think this one's going to be my favorite, but it's not like my worst. It just feels consistent. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it just feels like it's been consistent throughout. So it's not that I like it better or worse than the episodes. It just feels like it's still part of the other episodes.
Yeah, which is an interesting feat given, like there's different writers for each episode. There's different directors for each episode. Like the last 2 episodes were directed by Leah Thompson. This one's directed by Jonathan Frakes. So it's interesting that it still has that consistent feel all the way through, but with the different talent coming to put it together, right? So yeah, it's fascinating. I'm really curious to see what happens next.
I love that you just said fascinating. My daughter said to me the other day, Dad, how come every once in a while when we're talking, you'll say fascinating? And she goes, and you say it like that. I don't understand. I'm like, because that's how Spock says. Spock's always saying fascinating, fascinating. And so I went on YouTube and played this collage of fascinatings for her. I'm like, now you know why I'm doing it? She's like, oh yeah, now I get it.
Yeah, Dad. Okay, I get it. And trying to leave the room.
But you mentioned Leah Thompson, who directed the previous 2 episodes, and then it was fun to actually see her in this episode. You know, I was like, I said to my wife, we're watching, I said, you recognize her? And she's like, isn't that the woman that was in Back to the Future? And I was like, yeah, she directed the last 2 episodes.
I'm really embarrassed to say that, like, something about her made me think, oh, she seems familiar. And then I didn't think about it at all. And then, like, a day later, somebody mentioned Leah Thompson being in the episode, and I was like, was she? And I was trying to think of, like, background people, like, was she just in the background doing something? And then in the live show, embarrassingly, in front of our people watching, Brandy brought that up, and I was like, wait, that was, oh my God, that was Leah Thompson. And I felt so embarrassed, like, that I didn't realize that. But I must have been half asleep when I watched this episode or something, because I remember thinking, oh, she seems kind of familiar somehow, and then not thinking about it anymore after that.
Well, that's a good thing, because that means you were really engrossed into the episode. You weren't thinking about that, you know? That's good.
The one thing I noticed about that scene, though, and somebody else brought this up too, was they're having this, like, board hearing of Soong, and it looks like they're sitting in a hallway in a corridor with a door at the end. Like, that struck me, like, in that scene, that seemed really weird. And yet I didn't notice Leah Thompson. So I don't know what my brain was doing.
I think it's funny you said where they were saying, because I remember thinking at the time, they seem like they're out in this big open area. And I'm like he's checking into a convention or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was like the entryway atrium of somewhere or something. It was very odd.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm here to pick up my tickets.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Or I'm here to sign in. Which room do I go to? Like,
is this the will call desk? I can't.
Yeah, I know. That's what it did feel like. That's kind of funny. But I was a little disappointed. I can't remember exactly what her name was, but she had her nameplate. Werner was the last name. I don't remember what the first name was, but I was hoping that they were going to, like, give her first name, like Elaine, which was the character's name in Back to the Future. Just
Lorraine in Back to the Future, but yeah.
All right, Lorraine. Okay, I couldn't remember exactly. I knew it was something like, but if they would, McFly would have been maybe a little too much.
Yeah, it was Diane Werner, apparently.
Diane, that's it. And I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but I was, like, really hoping that you'd look at the nameplate and go, oh, wait, yeah, the first name is the name she had in Back to the Future. Yeah.
Dr. Lorraine Baines McFly. Yeah.
Right? That would have been kind of cool. Because, I mean, heck, they've got Easter eggs throughout these episodes. I mean, why not, you know?
Absolutely.
Which also makes me wonder, as many Easter eggs there are, then I've started thinking, is this really an existing timeline that then gets altered? Or is this a whole new timeline that Q creates, making our characters think it's their timeline that gets altered later because all these Easter eggs that maybe Q put into it? It's like something about Q. Okay, which gets me to this. I'm glad I mentioned it. Laris, okay, is not Laris.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Talon, and she's an agent like Gary 7. But why does she look like Laris? And even Raffi says something to Picard about that.
I did love that little exchange where, you know, she keeps kind of picking at Picard, like, is this, how are you doing with it? He's like, yeah, it's weird. Stop talking about it. I don't know. I'm waiting for an explanation of that. And I have seen that theory online that, like, this is just all a creation by Q and it's not even reality. But I don't know. I feel like there's a different explanation, but I don't know what it is. I'm really curious. I think that Talon is a shapeshifter of some sort, like Isis, like that we've mentioned before, Gary 7's cat. But why she just happened to look like Laris, I don't know, or if there's some reason behind it. I have no idea.
I almost want to go back and watch that scene again, but did she even act like, why is he calling her Laris? Didn't she kind of give him a look like, no, I'm Talon? Like,
she kind of was a little bit bemused, like just kind of standing there while he said this. And then when Picard said, like, you're not Laris, and she's like, no. So I don't know. It could go either way, really.
Yeah. And if she's doing that just for the reasons you said, why wouldn't she just say, I've taken this form to look like Laris so that you'd feel comfortable around me or something? I don't know. It's like, I'm just like wanting to know why. Besides, maybe the reasons outside of the story is, oh, we just really wanted this actress, because we really like her. But there's too many coincidences, throughout that makes me wonder really what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to what we talked about before, 10 forward, but 10 forward on the Enterprise hasn't existed yet. So why would Guinan have a bar called 10 forward in the 21st century, right?
Well, you remember my theory, but there's a few theories about that out there, which are kind of interesting. I really liked your theory last week on that personally, but
well, that's why I need to write for the show. No. Can you imagine me? I'm just trying to picture myself in the writer's room and people are like, yeah, we need to take a break right now. And they're like, get him out of here. So, okay, Dr. Adam Soong. Again, they all look alike. This family line, But I was so glad to see Soji. But
well,
it's not really her.
Not Soji though, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Issa Briones, I'm really glad. That was kind of cool. I'm like, okay, all right, that's his daughter. Sure. Again, lending credence to some people saying this maybe isn't really reality. Maybe, I don't know, but it's cool. I'm glad we've got her back in this season. I was really worried when we didn't, Soji is still back in the 25th century or whatever, and who knows? I'm really glad we've got her back in this season.
Yeah, me too. And it makes sense, I guess. You could say that Data created his daughter to look like his ancestor's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense too for the painting that Data created before Soji and Daj were created by Bruce Maddox or whatever. That that painting was what it was based on, but that painting was obviously based on Kore, played by Issa Briones in this episode. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good call too. Well, yeah, because in the painting, isn't she by the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
And here's Kore wants to be by the ocean. She wants to be able to go outside and she wants to stand on the beach and smell the ocean, the salt water, swim in it, all that. Oh, yeah. I didn't even connect those. That's so good.
Well, I didn't make the ocean connection, so that's cool. That's a good take on that.
Yeah, I mean, you connected to the painting, which was done before he created Soji, and yet the painting has the ocean. Like, oh man, my head just exploded. Oh, this is so good. Okay. I can't go on because now I'm thinking about this. What else happened in this episode? Well, we had the bus, they go to rescue Rios from the bus. And that was a fun scene. I was a little annoyed with Raffi. I mean, I get what she's going through, but when she's just like, come on, Seven, we're just going to beam him out of there. And Seven's like, Raffi, no, come on. We can't do that. We can't disrupt the timeline. We can't get allow people to see us beaming somebody. That could cause this problem. And she's like, I don't care. And I'm like, come on, Raffi, you're a Starfleet officer. You should know better than this. I know you're going through a lot, but still. But then I do like how she finally is like, yeah, almost like, you're right. Like, I need to come down. But you really do see how losing Elnor and then the relationship with her son or lack of relationship with her, how all these things are really the demons behind her, really affecting her.
Yeah, and plus the fact being a former addict, and I'm assuming she's not able to use or is not using right now, like that's got to be really tough on her for sure. And you really see that when they're letting the people off the bus, and she sees Elnor, and it's obviously not Elnor, but she's really just going through this trauma right now that's really affecting her.
So for all us Elnor fans who are like, oh, we're not going to see Elnor anymore. Well, we did get to see him in this episode.
Yeah, very briefly.
Very briefly. But I like how Rios is talking to the other guy there on the bus, and they're talking Spanish, and the officer's like, hey, quiet, be quiet. And he's kind of making this plan like, don't worry, we're going to be rescued here. And I love how Rios takes down the officer, and then Raffi and Seven show up, and they get everybody off the bus and run. And that's when we see like this brief glimpse of Elnor and all that. And then when Rios is talking to that other guy, I thought, okay, are we going to find out later in the episode when they go back to the future, when they go back to the future, that this guy that Rios helped is a relative of his from way back when?
Well, that's not where my mind went. My mind went to, is this the guy that originated the Starfleet double fist punch move that that Kirk and B'Elanna Torres and everybody does? Because of course he's got the handcuffs on, and he hits the one guard like that. And Rios even comments on it. He's like, hey, I like that. That was good. He's like, is that the origin of Kirk Fu?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even pick up on that. That's so funny. I love it. Oh,
but I love Rios commenting on it, because I really wanted Rios to say something like, just like they teach it at the academy. Nice job.
That's a Kirk Fu move. And the guy's like, what? He's like, never mind.
Funnily enough, though, what really went through my head in that moment was Ransom from Lower Decks going, double fist punch.
Excellent. Love it. Well, then also we have this whole thing with the Queen and Jurati, which I'm just like, oh, Picard, don't leave her alone with the Queen, But man, I loved how eerie they played that up, where she's just calling out of the ship, or when she makes the cellular phone calls, and she uses the different voices.
Oh, that part creeped me out. And then, when she imitates the voices to get access to the comms and access to the cell tower, and then she's like, the Borg Queen just called the cops, and just using this like plaintive voice of this victim all alone. And oh no, well, first of all, don't just send one cop, come on.
Yeah.
This poor Leclerc guy, oh man, that was brutal.
Yeah, and he's searching through the house, and Jurati's sleeping there, so he totally missed her, which makes me wonder if he had seen her and woken her up, what would have happened. Don't go to the ship. Like, that could have ruined the Queen's plans. But, of course, he didn't see her. Darn it, And he gets on the ship, and he sees her, and he kind of stumbles down, and she's like, oh, nicotine addiction. Yeah. I can help you with that.
Oh, so creepy. That was so good. Annie Wershing, I tell you, man, she is so good as the Borg Queen here. Oh, man, I love her.
Yeah. And Jurati coming on and talking to her, and she really is good at standing her ground of like the Queen trying to lure her in, and she's done so well with that, and then I remember sitting there watching it with my wife when the Queen brings her, you're alone in all these other timelines, and I understand you, and we have these connections, and she puts her hand on her cheek. My wife's like, don't let her touch you. Don't let her touch you.
Can I tell you something that I'm going to be straight up honest about, really annoys me about this storyline? And Brandy felt the same way as well. And that's that in season 1, Agnes Jurati, we didn't really get the real Jurati for much of the season because she was under the influence of this mind meld from Commodore O, which compelled her to murder Bruce Maddox, basically O using her to do that, and all of this stuff. She was never in control until that's kind of revealed and expunged and stuff later. And it feels like we're getting the same thing this season now, with the Borg Queen inserting herself into Jurati's mind. Now, we don't know if Jurati's under her control or if she's just along for the ride, but it feels like, oh no, Agnes is under the influence of this outside force again. And I'm kind of annoyed that they're going that route. I'm going to be honest. I wish that we just get Agnes Jurati being herself, and I hate to see this character put through that again, I guess. I don't know.
I had a similar thought about that, because I thought of how we're really enjoying this character this season, right? Because what she went through last season, she really wasn't in control, and she was doing things that were kind of disturbing, and, and now we're getting the real Jurati, and she's, standing up to the Queen, and she's helping out so much, and she's on top of things. And then this happens, and it's like, oh, are we going back to this again? No, like when she was standing there and she had blood all over her, it took me, even though I didn't know about the Queen at this point being, infested in her of any time. I mean, they've made a connection, of course, but when the crew beams onto the ship and she's standing there in blood, it took me back to last season. It's like, oh, yet again, she's murdered someone. Because at that point, when they first beam on she's in blood, I thought, did she shoot the cop or the Queen?
Yeah, I did wonder if she shot the cop to keep him from being assimilated or something. And I'm really glad that's not what happened, for sure.
Yeah.
His spleen's just in a box over there.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Because I really thought maybe she'd, shoot the cop, and because they still need the Queen, right, to get back home. And just put him out of his misery, and
shades of Picard in First Contact, right? Shooting the ensign who is being assimilated.
Right.
That's where my mind immediately went as well. Yeah.
But then, later in this episode, we see the Queen with her arm around Jurati in that security office at the party, and it's like, oh my gosh! Like you said, is she just along for the ride? I mean, it's got to be more than that, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the good news is they still have the Queen to be able to get back to the future, I guess. But Agnes, oh man, I wish she could just have some peace with her own mind and not be under the influence of these all the time. That's the part that bugs me a bit. And I mean, full benefit of the doubt, though. We'll see where they go with the story. I don't know, but it's got me worried about that aspect of her character that we got last season.
Yep, same here. But yeah, I guess we'll see how that plays out. But I did like her crashing the party,
Mm-hmm.
I like her going in there, and she has her fake IDs or whatever, but she's still detected as being suspicious, and that's why they take her in the security room. But that's part of the plan, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they wanted to happen. So she's in that room so she can do her thing in the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, all going according to plan, except the Borg Queen's there too. Ugh.
I know. I saw someone online point out that this is episode 5 of the season, and in episode 5 of the last season, they did a similar thing. It was Shag Rag Tag, whatever that was called.
It was Stardust City Rag.
Stardust City Rag. It's kind of like that, going and impersonating, like coming into the party, and there's a little mission going on. But yeah, that was all pretty cool. Then let's talk about Q. Q's in this. I liked when Q brings Soong to that restaurant, and Soong's just like, look, I'm not here to talk to you. I don't need some whack job, blah, 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 blah. And I love how Q's just like, in 17 seconds, you're going to sit here. And Q does his spiel about, his daughter, da, da, da. And sure enough, he sits down. He goes, yeah, there you go. 17 seconds. Mm-hmm. So it tells me Q still has a little power, obviously.
Well, even when he doesn't have his power, though, he has an IQ of, what was it, like 1,000 and something or whatever, because he didn't have his powers in the Next Generation episode Deja Q, and he said, oh, still really smart.
Yeah. So what do you think about the storyline of Soong and Q and Corey, not can't go out into the sun, can't be around dust. She has to be enclosed in this room.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes me really curious as to what Q's ultimate plan here is, because we know that Adam Soong is going to become some sort of revered figure in the Confederate future that we see. And also it tells me that this whole thing with Renee Picard and all of this is just one aspect of what's going on. And Picard and his crew are thinking like, okay, this is the thing. We need to make sure she goes on this mission in order to preserve the future. But it's clear that's only one part of what's going on. Or as some people have speculated, it might even just be a total red herring. It might be just Q throwing them off the trail completely. But either way, this whole thing with Soong and Kore is going on without Picard and the crew knowing that yet. So they're going to get blindsided by this sometime in the future if they don't figure out what's going on here. And yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, Soong is now indebted to Q, right? Because Q gives him this cure for Kore that wears off right away. And now that he's seen what it can do, he says, I want the cure that doesn't wear off, and I will do anything for you now. So that's dangerous. Q's got his agent here, I guess, and I'm curious to see what he's going to get him to do now. That's really scary.
And he says to Soong, does the name Picard mean anything to you? And I thought, what does Q need Soong for to get to Picard, or to do something for Picard? Or
yeah, it might still have something to do with Renee Picard as well, too. It might all be connected that way. And maybe he's just doing this to get Soong on his side, to get someone to do his dirty work. That might be all it is, too.
Yeah. Oh, see, I want to go to the next chapter.
Yeah, that's how they get you. That's how they're getting you this season.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways it is kind of hard to talk about these episodes when it is just a chapter, right? We're not getting the full story. There isn't as I said earlier, a beginning and end to a story in this episode. And I mean, yeah, we could talk about the aspects of the episode that we like and where it's going, but I really do want to get to the end and then talk about this, So are there any other thoughts that we didn't talk about in this episode that you wanted to cover? Because I think those are pretty much the highlights, unless I'm missing something.
I think that's pretty much the highlights. We didn't talk a ton about Renee Picard and the whole Q as her therapist and having the fake Freudian accent and stuff. But I like that Q is being resourceful. He doesn't have his powers, but he's still doing all these little things kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how they're going to push Renee in the direction that she needs to go and all that kind of stuff. I also had a thought that the plot of this episode in very broad strokes reminded me of the Star Trek Klingon encounter at Star Trek The Experience in Las Vegas. Do you remember that?
Oh, wow. I can't remember that. It was a long time ago.
Basically, the whole thing is they beam up everybody who's in this Star Trek ride, and they're like, oh, a Klingon has gone back in time to kill an ancestor of Picard, and one of you is that ancestor, and we need to protect you to ensure that Picard survives in the future, kind of thing. So I was like, oh, there's the ancestor of Picard thing here. They have to protect her. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Just vaguely, I was like, that's kind of cool.
I've forgotten about that. I do remember the Klingon went back in time thing. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, maybe we're all ancestors of Picard.
Could be, yeah. I don't think it works that way, but sure.
No, it doesn't. Oh, well. But what are your final thoughts then?
So final thoughts, again, they've got me along for this ride. Like, they've captured my attention. I'm really invested in what's going on. I'm really enjoying this. I love the slower pace of the season, just the unraveling of the mystery as we go and the new mysteries being introduced with the whole Adam Soong and what his role is going to be and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to say one really confident astronaut who's ready to take on any mission. That's my rating for this episode.
Good. Yeah. It's hard for me to rate the episode because it does feel like it's just a chapter, right? But yeah, I really enjoyed where this is going. Like you said, I'm hooked. I'm along for the ride. I'm invested in getting every little bit of information that leads to the next thing. Getting Soong in here, and we're seeing somebody who looks like Soji, but not Soji, as his daughter. It was pretty cool to me. And the whole scenes with Jurati and the Queen and, everything that's going on, and with Jean-Luc and the crew on the bus thing and all these things happening. Yeah, I'm into it. So all I'm going to say to that is that I'm going to give this one, I'll give this 4 out of 5 drones that can protect you from the sun.
Ooh, very nice.
So, okay, well, we'll talk about it again next week with the next episode, and we'll just keep going and going, and then that'll lead us into Strange New Worlds, which will lead us into the next Star Trek thing, and we just keep going and going.
It's just Star Trek forever, which I'm okay with.
Isn't it weird? It's just so weird to me. There's times I just sit there and I think, wow, we're getting like new Star Trek like all the time. Like I never would have expected it to be like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dan, when people aren't listening to you here on the podcast and they want to reach out and say, "What's up, Dan? Let's talk Star Trek," where can they find you?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter. I'm at Kertrats. That's Kertrats. You can also check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kertrats Productions. We talked about the live show that I do with Brandy Jackala every week, or we try to do every week. Sometimes schedules don't quite work, but yeah, that's usually on Saturday nights. So check out that channel for the next episode of that. And of course, the Positively Trek discussion group on Facebook, which is really my favorite Star Trek hangout online because the people in there are awesome and the discussions are terrific.
And that's when I took a drink.
So how about you, Bruce? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Admiral_Rex. That's Admiral with the underline Rex. And of course, you can find me at Star Trek Mission Chicago. And you can find me occasionally on the Star Wars Report and on Literary Treks. And Goodreads. Check our Goodreads group. I'm over there too. So search for Positively Trek and we'll let you into that group. So you can see what books are coming up soon for our book club episodes. And you can send us an email, positivelytrek@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at positivelytrek. And then tune in every week. I just realized because I'll be in Chicago, I don't know if I'll be on the next episode when we talk about Picard or not, because I'm going to be gone. We'll have to see how that all plays out.
Yeah. Hopefully we can work that out. But we'll figure something out for sure.
Yes. So anyway, until next time, everyone, go out into the world. Enjoy yourselves. I want to thank our patrons, by the way, too. Thank you so much. And you know what we always say at the end? Stay positive.
Agnes. Agnes, I have a surprise for you. Agnes!